I was not intending to actually talk about RDA Tiger, which was in your previous slide, but of course we can discuss it maybe later on. So some of these slides are from Hilary Hanaho, who is the Secretary General of the RDA Foundation, and which is the global part of the RDA. And I am working for the Research Data Alliance Association AISBL, which is working in Belgium and is part of the European contribution to Research Data Alliance. Just a second. So what is Research Data Alliance? This is an international organization, so it's a truly global organization, and it's based on membership. So there's it does not have a kind of what do you call this kind of institutional of role in that sense, that its power comes from its members. And it's based on development of infrastructure and community activities which reduce the barriers of data sharing and exchange, and via that way, acceleration of data-driven innovation worldwide. And I think it's very important to notice here both the aspects of international or global, so it is not related to any specific region, and also about the member-based, and these members can be organizations, but most of our members, which I will go in a moment, are individuals. So people work as an individuals. So RDA itself has the vision of in the future, so that the researchers and innovators openly share and reuse data across technologies, disciplines, and countries, and to be able to answer the grand challenges of society. And what we actually try to do is to build the social and technical bridges that enable open sharing and reuse the data. And I think it's also important to highlight here the term social, because often people think that data issues or data interoperability is a technical challenge. And I do think that after now we have been running RDA for 10 years now, it's quite obvious that most of the challenges are actually social and policy-oriented challenges instead of technical things. And if your problems are only technical, you are very lucky. We have several guiding principles. First of all our activities are open. They are consensus-based. We are a very inclusive organization, and anybody can join. And we are working more on harmonization than assigning strict requirements. As I mentioned before, this is community-driven. And also importantly, we are a non-profit organization, and we are technology neutral. This does not mean that we cannot develop technologies. This just means that we, as an organization, we don't select specific technological solutions as preferred ones. And this kind of the members can suggest whatever technologies they find as usable solutions, and of course then others are free to choose which one they want to use. So why this is important? First of all, I hope some of you are familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and these are kind of the core challenges of humanity in now and in near future. And basically none of these can be solved without getting access to relevant data. And also in many cases here, there is not a single discipline which can answer this, so you need to work multidisciplinary way, and also you need to work globally, because these are not things which can be solved in a single country. This has been kind of formulated more strictly in this UNESCO recommendation of open science, which is then puts the global UN really pushing towards this kind of open science and also on open access to relevant research data. This graph from the Young European Research Universities Network shows to me quite nicely of these different aspects of open science, or what they call the kind of tree of open science. And you can see here there are many of these kind of key aspects like open education, collaboration, and citizenship science, and ideas sharing, and so on. almost all of these, at least from the perspective of data, have been also addressed in the Research Data Alliance. So we are trying to cover a lot of these aspects of open science. Of course, not everything. We are mostly concerned about research data, but it's a large part of the open science landscape. Also, it's quite obvious, especially concerning the late COVID situation. We actually had a specific working groups founded for this COVID data sharing during the worst part of the pandemic. It was quite obvious that you really need this open access to research, and often very rapidly after obtaining the data. Of course, COVID was a special case, but we do need to prepare ourselves to be able to get such information in very short notice, because we don't know what the next challenges might be. And just to, I mean, you often when you work with the Europeans, they talk about EOSC, and I will mention it a bit in a moment. But EOSC is not the only organization or only initiative globally working on open science or working on this kind of integrative system of data and computing. It's global initiatives working on this way, and one of the RDA working groups is currently mapping these ones and categorizing how they work in different regions of the world. And what we usually call them are global open research commons, and so which have certain aspects of functionality which are commonly seen wherever you go in different areas. And of course, from the RDA point of view, what we would really like to get is the certain parts of these research commons to be interoperable with each other, which also means that they should be developed together instead of developing them in separate silos and then only later on working towards combining them together. And as a last kind of motivational point for the RDA, just excuse me for a second. So it was we had just had a plenary meeting in Göteborg, and one presentation which kind of stuck to me was presentation by Magnus Sahlgren, who is a technical lead of AI Sweden, or artificial intelligence development in Sweden. And he specifically pointed that, I mean, the more we have artificial intelligence available to us, the more important comes the amount and the quality of data it gets to use in its analysis. And by itself, it's not very useful. The data is the key point of it. So how does the RDA, before going to how the RDA works, first of all, who is in the RDA? Right now we have about 13,000 individual members, and these are who are members by their individual nature. This does usually mean that they have joined because they had a project or a challenge which they wanted to solve in research data, and usually, of course, this is a part of their work, and they found it important to discuss these issues in the global sense. I have to though say that from the 13,000 members, what we have collected last 10 years, of course, not everybody is all the time active, but this is basically the amount of people who have shown interest and are part of our communication network. We also have 70 plus organizations which are organizational members, which actually do pay for their membership. Individuals don't need to pay, and so they are usually organizations which see the value of RDA to their work. And in addition to those, we have 35 plus, I think about closer to 40 now, nations and regional nodes, which work more on the closer to the level of researchers and research performing organizations, and try to get the localization of the RDA outputs and also to bring up the challenges which we encounter in the member states or the individual states. Although, after all the talk about global aspect, it is though true that RDA was originally founded by the Australia, Europe, and US, and it is still visible, of course, in the membership. So we do have, although we have members from 148 countries, the European, Australian, and US members are the majority, but we have, especially in the last years, shown a lot of growth in Latin America and Africa. So it's hopeful that we get the more more wide range of participation from those regions as well. And actually during COVID, that has increased because, of course, the hybrid methodology has increased, and then they don't have to physically join in the meetings. And on the right, you can see really the Europe is from the membership, it's about half. And so it's definitely the largest portion of RDA members come from Europe. Also, from the point of view of organizations and kind of types of members we have, most of our members are working in academia research organizations, and some of them work in the government and public services, but the rest are quite small fractions of the membership. So the next slide is this is the one where I actually think is the core part of this presentation. What does the RDA actually do? We found, or not we, the members found with themselves different kind of groups to work in. I would actually start from the middle one here, the interest groups. They are a long-term group of solving or at least addressing a certain kind of challenge in data, open data related issues. And they are intended to be kind of a breeding ground of figuring out what are the concrete outputs, what we could actually, concrete challenges which we could actually solve together. And from them, they can create these kind of working groups, which are a limited time groups which have a specific goal and specific concrete goal, what they're trying to solve in that time, and create that output as a recommendation. And they bring concrete deliverables. And so the idea is that the interest groups are long-time things, and then they create out these working groups. These working groups can also come straight from the membership, so it's not always necessary to have this interest group connection. Also, what is important to notice is that these interest and working groups still, even though they are member-based, they do also, there is a process how we curate them, meaning that there is not same issue is not solved in two different groups, and also that there is enough of interest, and there is enough of global engagement, and there is enough of, there is a certain level of urgency to solve the issues addressed by working groups. We have also a new form, which is a community of practice, which is more of a kind of a mixture of the two interest and working groups, and they are very domain specific, and we only have one of them, so I will not go much into that one right now. So the working methods, how these groups work, we have 2 physical plenaries per year, and in addition to those, we have, of course, virtual meetings in the other times, and of course, in some cases, this actually goes into concrete things, what people solve, and create some sort of pilot templates or something like that. What comes out of the working groups are then hopefully created into RDA recommendations if they're successful. And these go through a very formal phases of discussion, comment, and decision making. And there is this kind of internal kind of open peer review in a sense that people can comment on these recommendations. And these kind of things, if they need to be endorsed as a really RDA recommendations, they need to meet specific criteria, including made publicly available and usable and adoptable. And they have to have been adopted, at least there has to be a one test case where the output has been adopted by some organization or data system or something. So it is feasibility has been demonstrated. Before ending, one key point here is that the RDA is now 10 years old, and we are currently working on different aspects of RDA work here during these different months. And what this means is that we are organizing webinars on these subject areas. Of course, we are already here in April, but you can see here that there are a lot of interesting kind of future webinar series on some of the outputs and group work of the RDA. Just to finish here, often I was actually asked a actually yesterday I was presenting also on a presentation about EOSC role of RDA and EOSC. And the difference, of course, here is that EOSC is a European initiative, and of course they have a lot of resources and they have a lot of projects and very specific goals to solve, and which will create hopefully internally consistent data environment and processing environment. But RDA instead tries to work globally and having this kind of very low level of engagement. You don't need to be a member of a project or apply to anything. You can just join the group. And these can work very well harmoniously. So you can have this kind of EOSC projects which the members can either join or create working groups, or then after there is some sort of solution coming from EOSC, they can maybe test within the RDA groups, how does it also reflect the other developments happening globally? And so in this perspective, we can see RDA is providing kind of a service of internationalization for the EOSC. And as a final point of this RDA EOSC connection, we have also been member of the RDA, the EOSC Future project, just a second, where we have supported a wide range of additional projects and domain ambassadors are working on this kind of trying to create this connectivity in RDA, first of all, to other areas which are not traditionally been very active in RDA, but also kind of bringing the EOSC interoperability and standards in context of the RDA more visible. So the connection between EOSC and RDA and connection between European and international initiatives. This program will end in, if I remember right, September this year. So what we provide are global solutions and a global network. And it's also the process of how to create other groups. And I think it's also important in that sense that you can, even if you have never been a member of RDA, you can use this platform to create for your own data challenges, the community and the kind of the existing processes and support mechanisms which support support this kind of international collaboration in research data aspects. We do work globally, of course, and we do believe, of course, that the cooperation builds trust and supports integrity of our actions. And as a final slide, this is from Hillary. This was from one of our plenaries, which was in Botswana, and they had this very nice saying, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And that's a kind of unofficial motto of the RDA activity. So thanks, that was the presentation, what I prepared, and if you have any questions or comments, I'm more than happy to answer to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ari Asmi, for the wonderful presentation. I will stop the recording so that people feel more free to ask the questions and engage. So give me 1 second.
So maybe just a couple of